come back with Steph and Gare, or as AI tried to name them, Stefan Gare.
That's so fancy.
I know.
That is so fancy. That would be like, I just picture Aaron Taylor Johnson as Stefan Gare. Because, like,
That
if
would work.
you combine us, he's got to be smoking hot.
You've got him on the brain right now.
I do, because I just read a book and I thought he was a serial killer in it, and he was not. I just had a letdown.
What did you read? Tell us what you read.
Well, I just read All the Wrong Places by Joy Fielding, and it's my first book by her. But it was very like soap opera drama, but it's about a serial killer in Boston who is trying to find victims on online dating sites.
The cover is so cool.
The cover is so cool. It was like fun. It kind of reminded me of like Valentine by Tom Savage and like a Lifetime movie and like a little bit of like Desperate Housewives. Because you have these like women that are like all connected and like you're just like wondering which one's gonna go, you know? And you get like a little bit of an inside look into the killer.
That's cool.
What was the author's name?
Joy Fielding. I love Steph getting her steps in.
I know. Steph is walking there and I are sitting.
Well, my doctor told me that I should take like short walks when it's like not very hot or cold out. And I was like, okay, that's like 2 months of the year. And he's like, it'll be really, it's like really good for your POTS. And I was like, okay, so I bought a walking pad just to like walk in front of the TV a half hour a day. It's been sitting in the box in my living room for 2 weeks now. I haven't even like opened it yet.
It's hard.
I kind of want one too because the out of doors does not always do well with my lungs.
It just doesn't do well with my personality.
Yeah. Well, that too.
There's like bugs.
It was only my dog's treadmill. It was not my treadmill.
Your dog's treadmill?
Dog is treadmill trained.
Your dog knows how to walk on a treadmill. Oh,
it's really cute. But I just started getting into it myself.
Oh my god. Did you treadmill train your dog?
I did not. She came that way. Her foster mom was a trainer.
Oh my god.
But since she doesn't really like other dogs, it's really a nice like backup.
Yeah.
That's so cool that they are treadmill trained. I can't even imagine having, but then again, Murphy is like the worst behaved dog.
This bad.
Like he is so bad.
I've heard he's like a mental workout for them more than a physical one. Which makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what we saw a TikTok that was talking about when dogs just want to sniff on a walk. They're like, it's like when they're just like having fun and it's like you scrolling TikTok forever. So now we're always like, Harley just needs to scroll the grass.
She needs to decompress a little bit.
I try to do that, but then every time I do that, Murphy finds something in the grass and like is like gnawing on it.
Yeah.
And one time it was a dead, dehydrated frog.
Gross.
Ew.
And I was like screaming bloody murder in a park where like all these kids are playing like softball or some shit. And I'm like, Murphy, drop the frog! What the fuck? It was so scary.
Have I told you this story? So we like walk our dogs and like this, there's just like a loop. It's like a shitty park basically around a bunch of warehouses, but there typically aren't dogs there. And so this was a few summers ago when, I don't know, it doesn't matter. This was a few summers ago. And there were a bunch of people parked in the parking lot. Like there were 6 cars that were basically just chilling there on their lunch break. And so I'm walking both pit bulls by myself. And when we get back to like where there are a bunch of trees, they saw a squirrel. And we had been running a little bit because I was trying to burn their energy really quickly. So they already have all the running momentum. They pull me towards the squirrel and they both go on opposite sides of the tree. And I was like stuck, smashed against a tree with my arms like crucifix style spread out. And these people watching me, I'm just stuck wrapped around a tree. They like cut my arm open. I had to like walk back to the car with like blood coming down my arm. I'm like, this is so embarrassing.
How many scars do you have from your dogs?
Too many.
Yeah, you have a lot.
No. My ankles still have not fully recovered.
I have a good walking story from this week, and it's kind of like reminds me of like, did you guys watch Scream Queens with like Emma Roberts?
No.
Okay, well, she plays the same character she plays in everything, like the bitchy, like brat, whatever.
Yeah.
Which was me on Tuesday. I went for a walk after work, and it was like, it said it was like under 80, like it was like 77, 78, but it felt like it deceived me. Like when I got outside, I was like, it is hot as fuck out here. So I start walking, and I like go around this trail in the middle of nowhere by myself. Nobody else is around. And then, oh my God, am I still there?
Yeah.
What happened?
We see you.
Oh, I don't know. I don't see myself anymore, but okay. Oh. So I'm walking around this trail, and I'm rage texting Kate because I had drama that I was dealing with this week, and I just needed somebody to vent to. And I was like rage texting Kate, walking, like huffing and puffing, like literally this guy, like Ted Bundy style, has his truck pulled over in the parking lot right next to my car, and he has his hood up, and he's like, "Hey, could you?" And I was like, no, I'm not. I can't help you with anything." I keep rage texting, and I was like, basically like, no. And like, I just kept rage texting Kate with my headphones in, like stomping away on this trail by myself, going into the fucking woods.
Oh my God!
You just joined the serial killer.
And like, but like when I went to like come back around, like his truck was like gone. So I was like, first of all, if you're trying to kidnap me, like you literally cannot just be like, can you help me with something automotive? Because I'm going to be like, no, I've never even had my oil changed. My dad does that for me. And like, secondly, if you think that you are convinced that I'm going to help you with your engine, you are beyond out of your mind. If you see me walking and you think that I'm your only help, you're better off with like sending a smoke signal. Or like a flare gun would help you more than I would. So like, I don't know if I avoided a serial killer or if this poor guy actually did need help. But like, if I did avoid a serial killer, it was by far the bitchiest way to do it. Like, I was like, no, I can't help you.
Flip on my AAA card and be like, I don't talk to strangers.
Yeah.
I don't even have a AAA card.
I've called it one time, and we barely had any cell phone service, and it would have taken them so long to get there that we ended up calling like a nearby gas station, and it was way faster. So I don't know. If anyone knows if it's worth it to keep it, please let me know.
I don't know.
I don't know.
Same.
Yeah.
You have an icebreaker?
I do have an icebreaker, and I'm really excited for it because I feel like it kind of jumps off from our last episode that the three of us did. But like I said, I read that book, All the Wrong Places, and I was like, I'm excited for the new Fiona Barton book because it's something that's similar with this woman that they think may have gotten murdered from somebody she met through online dating. And I was like, online dating in a thriller is like my new shit. Like, I just think that's so cool and like clever. And so I was wondering if there is either a trope that you guys love to read in a thriller, or there's a trope that you would like to see more in a thriller. Like something similar to how much I love like the online dating dangers in a thriller.
Well, that is a good one.
I was so proud of myself.
I love it. I am always a sucker for like taking down a corrupt system. I think that's kind of broad, but it kind of fits.
I like that. So like, you're fuck the patriarchy?
Fuck the patriarchy, fuck the cult, fuck the whatever. Yeah.
I love that too.
You know, I feel like I was thinking about this recently, but it will definitely not come to me now. But I recently read, it's not a thriller, but I really loved Margot's Got Money Troubles. It's a book that recently came out, and it does talk about like this woman who has a baby at a really young age, and she doesn't know how to support her family, and she starts doing OnlyFans. And there's just just like the dynamics of like how her family feels about it, how she goes about it. I think that it's really like relevant in today's world. So I think I'd be interested in reading more about that.
Yeah. I like that.
Like sex work?
Kind of. And just like how people like, that's probably a really realistic way to make money. Like we were kind of talking about before we started recording. Yeah. And so I think I maybe would be interested in reading.
I was like, we're going
to start an OnlyFans.
Mine's just going to be verbally abusing people for money.
It's just like, I think that'd be a really interesting trope to hear about in a thriller.
Have you read the Deanna Madden series by A.R. Torr?
Yeah, I have. I sure did. And I really loved it.
I read the first 2 books, and I'm still waiting to read the third one because I don't have it yet. But man, those were really good. But I would love that too.
Yeah. Hurt so for Me by Heather Levy.
Oh, yes. I do have that.
That one's really good too.
Yeah, that is a really good one too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. What's the name of it? Real Easy by Marie Rutkowski.
I love that book.
I'm obsessed with that book.
Holy shit.
I know. Wasn't there Things We Do in the Dark by Jennifer Hillier?
Yeah, she used to be or something, right? Like a dancer, maybe?
A dancer, yes.
Yeah.
I read that forever ago.
I did too.
I like the sex work trope, I guess.
Yeah.
I'm really interested in it now too. Because I feel like it is really common, and there's like a lot of different things under like sex work umbrella that you could do. Mm-hmm. So that is really interesting. Oh my god.
Yeah. And I think I guess I got the idea from like a non-thriller, but it also worked well in like a women's fiction, general fiction kind of humor type way as well. So I think it played to a lot of audiences.
I even liked that plot device the way they did it in Euphoria with Kat.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean...
loved her.
Yeah. I know. I love her.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think she's coming back.
What?
She didn't come back for the second season, right? Or she wasn't in the most recent one.
Yeah. But she was, like, not in it hardly at all.
Yeah.
She lied about having a brain tumor so she could break up with that guy.
Oh, yes. I thought you meant in real life. Then I remember.
No.
Yeah. I was like, oh, God. Well, you had a good idea from a TikTok for us to talk about.
I did.
You were just full of ideas for this episode.
I had a really good idea, I think, because I saw a TikTok. But sometimes I see these TikToks and I'm like, oh, okay, like that's a good one for like my TBR, or like that would be fun for like an Instagram post. But like there are just some that really jump out at me that would be like perfect podcast episodes, especially with like the 3 of us because we're all besties. So I'm going to thank, now I don't know who started this trend, but the person that I saw, her name is Erica, ERICAWITHA_CK on TikTok. Erica with a check. I don't know.
Erica with a CK.
Yeah. Oh, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like Erica with a check. I don't know. She must make a lot of money. But yeah, thanks, Erica. She had done this trend that was like a book that changed her life, a book that altered her brain chemistry, and then a book that got her... Why do I have balloons?
I don't know. It happened last time, too.
And then the book that got her into reading. So
yes,
I thought those would be really fun for us to discuss in the thriller fiction genre, whatever we want to read. because yeah, I feel like we talk a lot about books that like we recently read that we loved, or like upcoming things or what we read recently, but like these are things that we don't really talk about a lot, like what got us into reading and stuff. So yeah, that was my idea.
I love it.
Endless scrolling on TikTok.
I love TikTok so much.
Me too.
Yeah. Well, do you want to start off with the book that got you into reading?
Sure, I will. So I went through, we talked about this earlier before we started recording, but I went through my Goodreads to see like what I had, like when I started keeping track of what I read. And after Pretty Little Liars, I like dove right into like hardcore thrillers that were like super twisty. So the one book that I can remember that got me really into reading thrillers that were like super dark and kind of like put me on the path that I'm still on today is Heartsick by Chelsea Kane. And it is about a damaged Portland detective named Archie Sheridan who spent 10 years tracking down Gretchen Lowell, a beautiful serial killer, but in the end, she was the one who caught him. So 2 years ago, Gretchen kidnapped Archie and tortured him for 10 days, but instead of killing him, she mysteriously decided to let him go. She turned herself in, and now Gretchen has been locked away for the rest of her life, while Archie is in a prison of another kind, addicted to pain pills, unable to return to his old life, and powerless to those 10 horrific days and getting them off his mind. Archie's a different person, his estranged wife says, and he knows she's right. He continues to visit Gretchen in prison once a week, saying that only he can get her to confess to the whereabouts of more of her victims. But even he knows the truth. He just can't stay away. When another killer begins snatching teenage girls off the streets in Portland, Archie has to pull himself together enough to lead the new task force investigating the murders. A hungry newspaper reporter, Susan Ward, begins profiling Archie in the investigation, which sparks a deadly game between Archie, Susan, the new killer, and even Gretchen.
I remember you talking about this one like forever
that synopsis
ago.
was so fucking long. I was like, I'm reading you guys the first 3 chapters. Yeah, it's a 6-book series.
That's what I thought it was a series.
OMG.
Yeah.
It is so good.
That sounds really good.
So good. It's like that TV show The Killing combined with like Basic Instinct.
Ooh.
It's just so
that
good.
Sounds nice.
It's so good. Awesome. Yeah, it's got like the dangerous femme fatale like serial killer vibe in her because like she's so terrifying. But you can tell why like men and I'm sure women as well like would want her.
Yeah.
But women are smarter than men, so I'm sure a lot of the women like sniffed out her bullshit. But like Archie's like obsessed with her, and like you can kind of see why. And then there's like the journalist aspect, and it's just so good.
That sounds really good.
Yeah, so that's my first one that like really got me into reading dark thrillers.
Love it. It sounds dark.
It was so dark, and I loved it.
Yeah. Well, first of all, I definitely have talked about Gone Girl and The Kind Worth Killing a lot in answer to that question recently. I got asked it on another podcast, so I was like, can I just pick another one around the same time? And so the one that I picked that I probably picked up shortly after those is The Good Girl by Mary Kubica. So good. So fun.
So good.
So the synopsis for this one is: one night, Mia Dennett enters a bar to meet her on-again, off-again boyfriend, but when he doesn't show, she unwisely leaves with an enigmatic stranger. At first, Colin Thatcher seems like a safe one-night stand, but following Colin home will turn out to be the worst mistake of Mia's life. When Colin decides to hide Mia in a secluded cabin in rural Minnesota instead of delivering her to his employers, Mia's mother, Eve, and a detective, Gabe Hoffman, will stop at nothing to find them. But no one could have predicted the emotional entanglements that eventually caused this family's world to shatter. I just remember the twist at the end, just like jaw-dropping, being like, what the fuck just happened?
And it's really, the end of that is really bleak.
It is really bleak. It's like I knew I was going to meet you one day.
That's really funny too, because that was one of the books I used to post on my personal Instagram when I would post about reading. And I had like so many people come up to me and say like, I read that book because you recommended it, and like you should recommend more books to people. So like,
oh, that is so cool.
The Good Girl by Mary Kubica is like if I hadn't read that book, I probably wouldn't be on Bookstagram.
Oh my gosh. I'm so glad I picked it.
I know, that's so cool.
Yeah.
That was
I think it was the first of hers that I read. It was, actually. It made me a Mary Kubica fan.
Yeah. Yeah, it's so good. It's so good. And she just delivers every time.
She does.
It is a full cast audio if anyone wants to listen to that.
Ooh. That's cool.
The guy had kind of a sexy voice.
Sign me up.
I was like, okay. And then I was like, I hope things happen. So... I like that. I'm having a hard time with this one. So I'll say this. I almost took The Silent Patient because it was my first book I read in one day. But this one actually I read right before that, and I remember thinking it was like a really like a 5-star read for me. It was called The Fact of a Body by Alexandria Marzano-Lesnevich, and it's categorized as a memoir, but I think it's kind of a mix. So before Alex Marzano-Lesnevich begins a summer job at a law firm in Louisiana working to help defend men accused of murder, they think their position is clear. The child of 2 lawyers, they are staunchly anti-death penalty. But the moment convicted murderer Ricky Langley's face flashes on the screen as they review old tapes, the moment they hear him speak of his crimes, they are overcome with the feeling of wanting him to die. God, this sounds really dark. Okay.
That's a TBR.
Yeah. Shocked by their reaction, they dig deeper and deeper into the case. Despite their vastly different circumstances, something in the story is unsettlingly, uncannily familiar. Crime, even in the darkest and most sayable acts, can happen to any one of us. As Alex pores over the facts of the murder, they find themselves thrust into the complicated narrative of Ricky's childhood. And by examining the details of Ricky's case, they are forced to face their own story, to unearth long-buried family secrets and reckon with a past that colors their view of Ricky's crime. But another surprise awaits. They weren't the only one who saw their life in Ricky's. An intellectual and emotional thriller that is also a different kind of murder story, The Fact of a Body is a book not only about how the story of one crime was constructed, but about how we grapple with our own personal histories. Along the way, it tackles questions about the nature of forgiveness, if a single narrative can ever contain something as definitive as the truth. This groundbreaking, heart-stopping work, 10 years in the making, shows how the law is more personal than we would like to believe, and the truth more complicated and more powerful than we could ever imagine. That was also a really long synopsis.
That sounds deep.
That sounds so good.
It was. So now that I'm reading that, I remember loving it so much because I really love books that challenge your way of thinking and make us realize that so much is kind of gray and not black and white. Like if you have a really strong opinion of something, then you meet somebody that's been through something and you're like, wow, now I have some empathy and compassion.
Right.
So I think it's a little, my thing is I don't know how much of it is exactly a memoir. I think some of it is dramatized, but I'm not sure because it's been 4 years.
Well, it sounds really good.
Yeah. Highly recommend. It's one of those books that is when you read something, what? I don't know what's going on with your camera, Kate.
Anyway, that book sounds amazing.
Yeah. You go ahead.
I similarly love books that get into the gray.
Yeah, I think that there's You know, those books that you read like in the beginning of your reading journey, and you're not sure, like, if you read it again, where it would, like, how you would feel about it.
Yes.
And so part of me just wants to like leave it on this like pedestal, but I actually do think I would like still really enjoy it. It was just one of the first murdery books I read, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, now I want to read Heartsick again, and the book that you recommended.
Sweet.
The Fact of a Body.
The Fact of a Body.
I hope you're enjoying this episode of Book Wild, and if you are, could I ask you a favor? Could you go and rate and review this podcast on whatever platform you're listening? Ratings and reviews make the biggest difference in discoverability of the podcast, and I definitely want to find all of our fellow thriller readers out there. So if you could go rate the podcast and leave a short review, that would make a huge difference. Thank you, and let's get back to the show.
I feel like there was like something that I read, but you know how horrible my memory is, but there was like another book that came out around this like same time, and it was like a memoir about like a woman whose like friend was murdered.
Oh.
And I think it said something about a body.
Sounds familiar, but I'll never think of it.
I'll never think of it either. But
I haven't read a ton of memoirs. I read a few celebrity memoirs. I had a celebrity memoir kick while I listened to them. But
those are fun when they read them, when the celebrities read them.
Yeah. Yeah.
I want to read the Demi Moore one.
Ooh.
Did you see that Britney Spears is getting made into a biopic? I mean, I don't know how you couldn't have seen it.
Yeah, I did see that.
It's everywhere.
I am very interested to see who they cast.
I know. Yeah. That would be a tough one, kind of. There's this girl on TikTok who is doing like me posting every day until I get an audition for it. And I respect it so much too. So she's just like doing different Britney choreography from over the years. And she just like wants to be an actress and is a dancer. And I so badly want her. She probably won't be because they'll probably put a huge person in the role. But I so badly want it for her so that I can be like, I saw her TikToks.
I knew her before she was famous.
Yeah.
I feel like it's going to be Sydney Sweeney.
I heard the short list is Sydney Sweeney, Sabrina Carpenter. Someone said Margaret Qualley was included, and that seemed like an odd choice.
Oh,
but
yeah.
Who knows?
I don't know if she like acts, but like I could see like Tate McRae.
That was the other one. Yeah, Tate was on the short list.
Of how she dances reminds like of early Britney.
So similar. Yeah, she would be great.
Yeah, she would.
We'll see.
Yeah.
Well,
what book changed your life?
Yeah.
There.
Oh. It's my sad book.
Oh.
I would not be a reader if it was not for the book A Density of Souls by Christopher Rice. I have never sobbed as much during a book as this one. I've never had so many devastating moments. This book is so bleak. There's a lot of trigger warnings, but it's just so good. It is about 4 childhood friends in present-day New Orleans that are torn apart by envy, passion, and a secret murder. 5 years ago, Meredith, Brandon, Greg, and Steven quickly discover the fragile boundaries between friendship and betrayal as they enter high school and form new alliances. Meredith, Brandon, and Greg gain popularity while Steven is viciously treated as an outcast. When 2 violent deaths destroy the already delicate bonds of their friendship, the friends are drawn back together. New facts about their mutual history are exposed, and what was held to be a tragic accident is revealed as a murder. As the true story emerges, other secrets begin to unravel with more dangerous, far-reaching consequences.
Yeah.
I read this book when I was in like high school.
That's what I thought. That's what I was about to ask. Yeah. Was that his first one that you read?
It was his first book that ever came out.
That's what I thought too. Yeah.
Yep. And I think it came out in 2001, maybe. But yeah, it's just, I mean, it's probably one of the most powerful books I've ever read, but it also has like a huge cast that's all going through something completely different, and like how their lives intertwine, and like it follows over like years and years into their lives. It's just so good. It's so good, but it's bleak as fuck.
Which is why you love it.
There's like violence, there's sexual assault, there's a lot of deaths.
This is how I felt reading the Lion Women of Tehran this week.
Eating disorders, domestic violence, and
basically, if any trigger warning matters to you, it might not be for you.
True, yeah.
I think a lot of our listeners probably don't have too many, though. But
I don't even think I have
a baby on this back cover. The author, like, he seems so young when he wrote this.
I think he was like very young when he wrote. Like, I think he was like 20 or 20.
Not that old now.
No, he's like, I think he was like.
I follow him on TikTok, and Instagram, but he's kind of funny.
He's so nice.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I still need to read that one.
Yeah, it's
what was
so
the
good.
first? Why can't I think of the series of his that I read?
22 he was. The Burning Girl series?
That's what it is, Burning Girl, not Blood Girl. I was like, that does not sound right.
There's probably a Blood Girl series too somewhere.
Yeah.
Probably. We could write it.
We could. Well, interestingly enough, I kind of chose my what book changed my life off of similar criteria, because it is the book that it was the first book I cried, like sobbed reading. And it's The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. And I also feel like it changed my life because it was the first book that also opened me up to non-thrillers for the most part, that made me like, okay, maybe I should consider them sometimes. I feel like people probably know what it's about, but maybe someone doesn't. So aging and reclusive Hollywood movie icon Evelyn Hugo is finally ready to tell the truth about her glamorous and scandalous life. But when she chooses unknown magazine reporter Monique Grant for the job, no one is more astounded than Monique herself. Why her? Why now? Monique is not exactly on top of the world. Her husband has left her and her professional life is going nowhere. Regardless of why Evelyn has selected her to write her biography, Monique is determined to use this opportunity to jumpstart her career. Summoned to Evelyn's luxurious apartment, Monique listens in fascination as the actress tells her story. From making her way to Los Angeles in the 1950s to her decision to leave show business in the 80s, and of course, the 7 husbands along the way, Evelyn unspools a tale of ruthless ambition, unexpected friendship, and a great forbidden love. Monique begins to feel a very real connection to the legendary star, but as Evelyn's story nears its conclusion, it becomes clear that her life intersects with Monique's own in tragic and irreversible ways. I forgot that was in the synopsis, that their lives crossed over.
I was going to say, there's definitely like a reveal, even though it's not a thriller.
Yeah.
There were honestly, though, there were a few reveals in that book that I did not see coming.
Mm-hmm.
I agree.
So,
and it is just, oh my gosh, it's so, I have a fly terrorizing me. I keep getting distracted. Terrorizing me.
As you're talking about your non-thriller, you're like, I'm being terrorized right now.
Drama to it.
And I'm like,
but yeah, it was the first book I'd read in years of only reading thrillers. And I sobbed like a freaking baby through multiple parts of the end of it. I think I cried more in Daisy Jones and the Six, but TJR can make me cry.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Taylor Jenkins Reid, in case anyone didn't know. I think I didn't say that part.
I remember reading that one, I think, in a day as well.
Mm-hmm.
I definitely read it quickly.
Didn't think that I was going to love it as much as everybody thought I was.
Yeah. I felt the same way.
Yeah, it's one of those books where I was like, oh, everybody loves it so much. Like, I wonder, like, maybe kind of like you're saying, is it going to be as amazing as everyone says it is? It can't be that amazing. And then you read it and you're like, okay, it's amazing.
You're
All
like,
right, they're right.
Awesome.
There's a reason for this.
Yeah.
I
also love when it's something that gets you out of the genre that you usually read.
Yeah.
Like, I talk about the book The Paper Palace all the time because that's like what I like got me out of like only reading thrillers, because I was like, I don't think I'm gonna like this, and my friend was like, I think you will, and then I was like, I'm not gonna like this, and then all of a sudden I was like, this is one of the books that like I will forever hold dear to my heart.
Yeah. Did you hear about Kitty Carr? Because I read actually because I joined Taylor Jenkins Reid's email list, and she like emailed about that book, and that's one of my favorites of all time.
You're gonna get a TJR tattoo when I get my Jessica Knoll tattoo.
Do it.
Yes.
I love that.
Or maybe, and then we can get matching Ashley Winstead ones.
True. Yeah.
She would love that so much, I think.
I know.
She would probably go with us and hold our hands while we got tattooed. Like, just like for emotional support.
We can go to Texas. We can go to her and get tattooed.
Done.
I've heard Houston has really good food.
Oh, yeah.
Sold even more.
Yeah, I was like, you didn't have to keep selling me.
Yeah.
I watched I'm like, my comfort show right now is Top Chef, and I just watched the Houston one. I was like, gotta go there. Okay.
Oh, yum.
I wasn't like, oh yeah, take me to Texas. But then I was like, okay, food is good. All right.
Yeah.
So when we all get famous, that can be our first live podcast when we go on like a podcast tour.
Okay.
Yes. I'm down.
Me too.
Oh, that would be so cool.
All right.
I know. Steph shows up with her treadmill to every like episode.
My 10,000's going off. Okay, so mine is actually it's kind of actiony, but it's not a thriller really. I picked Chain Gang All Stars for mine. I picked it because I truly felt like it altered my brain chemistry in a way during my reading experience. There's like a lot of characters that you kind of hit a lot of different, like once I read the synopsis, you'll tell that it's based around these like people in prison who are fighting for their freedom. And it's like a money-making event, almost like the NFL. And so you see the perspective of fans and athletes and the prison guards and the prisoners. And so there's so many different perspectives that you read that I had to like put it down sometimes. And I almost thought, do I not like this? And then I realized I just had to take time to process it. Like I had to take breaks, and I've never experienced that in a book before, that even if you're enjoying it, you still have to take breaks.
Yeah.
It was so crazy. And then all of a sudden, like everyone else, I was crying really hard. So I'm just so the synopsis is: two top women gladiators fight for their freedom within a depraved private prison system not so far removed from America's own. Loretta Thurwar and Hamara Hurricane Stacker are the stars of Chain Gang All-Stars, the cornerstone of CAPE, or Criminal Action Penal Entertainment, a highly popular, highly controversial, profit-raising program in America's increasingly dominant private prison industry. It's the return of the gladiators, and prisoners are competing for the ultimate prize, their freedom. In CAPE, prisoners travel as links in chain gangs, competing in death matches for packed arenas with righteous protesters at the gates. Thurwar and Stax, both teammates and lovers, are the fan favorites, and if all goes well, Thurwar will be free in just a few matches, a fact she carries as heavily as her lethal hammer. As she prepares to leave her fellow links, she considers how she might help preserve their humanity in defiance of these so-called games. But CAPE's corporate owners will stop at nothing to protect their status quo, and the obstacles they lay in Thurwar's path have devastating consequences. Moving from the links in the field to the protectors to the CAPE employees and beyond, Chain Gang All-Stars is a kaleidoscopic... I don't know that word.
You said it right, though. You do know it.
Exorciating look at the American prison system's unholy alliance of systemic racism, unchecked racism, mass incarceration, and a clear eye eyed reckoning with what freedom in this country really means. So it's really interesting because reading this, I'm like, this is not a book for you, in the sense that like it's very action packed and a little like near future in things that like don't always work for me. Just like my brain can't always comprehend like near future machines or things that are being described. But it actually ended up really working for me. So
I really want to read that one.
I've heard amazing things about it.
Yeah, you kind of get to like certain relationships between the prisoners and like, do I want my freedom or do I care about the person next to me? And then like these fans that are like, this is disgusting, but then they binge watch it like any other reality TV show, and all of a sudden they're super into it. And you're like, but it is kind of disgusting. Like, it's just wild.
Yeah. It seems like R-rated Hunger Games.
Yeah.
Meets Orange is the New Black.
Yeah.
Yes. Yep.
Nice.
We should be blurbs.
We did that. Oh, yeah.
Blurbies.
We'd all be good for that.
Blurb babies.
Yeah. That's what we name our group chat.
Blurb babies. Oh my god, it should.
I love it.
I'm obsessed.
Yeah. Same.
What's the last one?
Well, I think you did. I think you did the book that altered your brain chemistry.
That was that one. Was that supposed to be last?
Yeah. So you did the last one. Gare and I were like trying to. I thought I could keep it together, but then I would see him smiling too, and I'm like, oh my gosh.
Will you guys see the one that changed your life?
Yeah.
Yes.
Saving that for last, baby.
The good news is they're pretty similar. Like changing your life and altering your brain chemistry, pretty similar.
I know it. Honestly, they kind of are similar, but whoopsies.
Yeah. Yeah. So I guess what altered your brain chemistry, Gare?
Oh yeah, sorry, Gare. What altered your brain chemistry?
This episode. The episode of this podcast has altered my brain chemistry, and I realized that the three of us need to be together constantly. So
okay.
I picked. I don't know how to explain how this like altered my brain chemistry, but the Shards by Bret Easton Ellis changed something in me when it comes to like reading, because I love that it's kind of loosely based off from certain aspects of his life, in a sense that like the main character's name is Bret and he lives in Los Angeles, but there's like a serial killer aspect to this. And there's so much going on between the characters that I was like, I think this is how some people would be in real life, in the sense of like, usually in a thriller, it's like, there's a serial killer on the loose and whoever you're following is like, I'm terrified. What if I'm next? What if my friend's next? Da-da-da. But like with this one, it's like, there are certain times where it impacts his life. And then there are certain times where like you and him like just don't give a shit about a serial killer because there's so much going on. So The Shards by Bret Easton Ellis is set in vibrantly fictionalized Los Angeles in 1981 as a serial killer begins targeting teenagers throughout the city. 17-year-old Bret is a senior at the exclusive Buckley Prep School when a new student arrives with a mysterious past. Robert Mallory is bright, handsome, charismatic, and shielding a secret from Bret and his friends even as he becomes part of their tightly knit circle. Bret's obsession with Mallory is equaled by his increasingly unsettling preoccupation with the Trawler, a serial killer on the loose who seems to be drawing ever closer to Bret and his friends, taunting them, and Bret in particular, with grotesque threats and horrific, sharply local acts of violence. The coincidences are uncanny, but they also filtered through the imagination of a teenager whose gifts for constructing narrative from the filaments of his own life are about to make him one of the most explosive literary sensations of this generation. So, yeah.
Dude, what's crazy is something you said about A Density of Souls reminded me of the Shards, and I almost mentioned it earlier. So when you just said that, I was like, holy shit.
That's awesome.
When I was trying to pick, I was like thinking of like different books that I like changed my brain chemistry in a sense of like how I am as a reader. But like, this is one of those stories that like stuck with me so much because like I could see this being what happens through the eyes of a 17-year-old high school student. Cause like kids under the age of like 20 think that they're invincible.
Yeah.
So like there's times where he's like, oh, I'm gonna go out and party and I'm gonna do this, and like who's got the drugs and who am I gonna hook up with? And it's like there's a serial killer out there, but like you are so lost in your high school mind that like you do not think that this affects you. And even when it starts to affect you, you just think that you're like like it's never gonna like harm you.
Yeah. That's a really cool perspective.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
So what makes that book even more trippy is that he reads the audio. So like he reads it exactly how it just makes it even more almost like a memoir in a way. Like it could have been. And like the way he says Robert Mallory will be ingrained in my brain forever. But that book is like probably 16 to 20 hours plus, and I like couldn't get enough of it. I was like, please keep reading it to me. Like I love you.
Yeah.
So good. It was so good.
I think I have 3 copies of it.
Yeah. Nice.
And
women.
It is humongous.
Yeah.
Like if you can see this yellow book right here, that's one of them.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
It's so long. It's such a long book. And I read it on Christmas. Like I was reading it like as my like cozy like Christmas Eve, Christmas Day read. And I was like, this is perfect.
Yeah.
This is perfect. But
that's awesome.
I just love that book so much. And it's one that I really want to reread sometime, but it's a billion pages.
It is. Yeah. Well, mine, as I was just scrolling through this fly, man, I almost knocked the mic over. This one, the way it changed my brain chemistry was, I think this was the first one where like something so graphic happened that I had to just like pause for a second. Just because like the darkness is so much in The Good Daughter by Karen Slaughter. It's also long. It's 528 pages.
Damn.
So, 2 girls are forced into the woods at gunpoint. One runs for her life. One is left behind. 28 years ago, Charlotte and Samantha Quinn's happy small-town family life was torn apart by a terrifying attack on their family home. It left their mother dead. It left their father, Pikeville's notorious defense attorney, devastated. And it left the family fractured beyond repair, consumed by secrets from that terrible night. 28 years later, Charlotte has followed in her father's footsteps to become a lawyer herself, the ideal good daughter. But when violence comes to Pikeville again and a shocking tragedy leaves the whole town traumatized, Charlotte is plunged into a nightmare. Not only is she the first witness on the scene, but it's a case that unleashes a terrible memory she spent so long trying to suppress, because the shocking truth about the crime that destroyed her family nearly 30 years ago won't stay buried forever. That's another one where like there's a lot of trigger warnings. I won't say them necessarily, but there was, I think it was like the first time I got to a scene and I was like, ouch, kind of. Like I need a moment.
I felt nauseous.
Yeah.
I felt very nauseous.
It is stuck in my head. But she just writes darkness so well.
Yes, she does. Yes, she does. Did you read Pretty Girls?
I did.
Yeah.
I feel like I read that one before, and like I know that one had a lot in it too. But I think this one still like there's just one scene that stands out so much.
Yeah. There's that scene that stands out for The Good Daughter was my first Karen Slaughter book that I read.
Oh wow. Yeah, I think it was my second.
I was like, wow, this is really dark. And then I got to that scene that you're talking about and I was like, did I just read what I think I just read? And it was very intense. And then Pretty Girls, I was a little bit more disturbed. I was a little bit more disturbed with Pretty Girls because there's an aspect that I find extremely disturbing.
Oh, yeah.
Do you want to cut it?
Yeah, go for it.
I have my book that changed my life.
There we go.
So I had just a little like past in probably between 2019 I was like, I'm gonna try and start reading and scrolling less. It was not that successful. I found some good books like Love the Silent Patient, The Fact of the Body, but it just never worked. And I think it's because I realized I wasn't reading my genre. And so then I was on a vacation and I brought Then She Was Gone by Lisa Jewell, and that was in April of 2022. And that, like, I have never stopped reading, joined Bookstagram, so I will credit her as the queen who, like, really got me back into reading. And so that changed my life.
Yeah.
Because, like, hey, I'm on with you guys now because
I
read this book one day and decided to keep going. So Ellie Mack was the perfect daughter, and then she was gone. 10 years after Ellie's disappearance, her mother, Laurel Mack, is trying to put her life back together when she meets an unexpectedly charming man in a cafe. Before she knows it, she's meeting Floyd's daughters, and his youngest, Poppy, takes Laurel's breath away. Because the eerily precocious Poppy is the spitting image of Ellie. And now, the unanswered questions she's tried so hard to put to rest begin haunting Laurel anew. Where did Ellie go? Did she run away from home as the police have long suspected? Or did something more sinister happen? Then She Was Gone is a gripping and emotionally resonant tale of one mother's quest to uncover the clues she failed to recognize and finally discover the truth of what happened to her daughter. The more I think about it, I didn't really realize it as I was reading it, was how dark it is.
It is.
Yeah.
The ending is heavy and bleak.
Yeah, when you find out what happened, it's like, oh my God.
Yeah.
So I think as I was reading it, you know, when you're reading something and you're just like turning the pages and you're like, wow, this is crazy. This is good. Like, I'm into this. And then you look back on it, you're like, that shit was dark. Oh my God.
She has like a way of like really sneaking up on you with like how dark her books can get.
Yeah.
It's really crazy. Oh.
Hey.
Mom?
Mom, are you there?
Mom? Does it still record?
Oh, yeah, because it doesn't stick on my end.
Yeah, me either. I'll just edit this one. You imagine?
I don't know.
It's just a clip of all of us laughing and me going, oh.
Yeah. I feel like my face. I thought it was really cloudy all day today, but apparently it's not, because I thought I was just like hot or laughing really hard, but I think I'm actually sunburned.
I was gonna say, I feel like
hot from walking.
I feel like your face is getting tanner, like from when you started recording to like now.
Earlier today, and I'm just like, wow, I thought that it was like not, I don't know.
Sometimes the UV index is high even when it's cloudy.
I know.
Yeah.
I have some moron that didn't put on sunscreen when I'm like, everyone should put on sunscreen.
Yeah.
Whatever.
I do the same thing.
Yeah.
One time, my friend, for her bachelorette party, they went whitewater rafting, and I was like, I had my sunscreen on, but there was like a little break from like my hairline here in the helmet, and my head got wet, so I had like a sunburn right here, like a strip, and I was like, this is the worst thing of my entire life. I should have just not worn it at all.
Yeah.
Oh my
Did you enjoy that
gosh.
experience as a bachelorette experience?
I had the most fun I have ever had in my entire life whitewater rafting.
Really?
With a ton of people. The only thing that made me nervous is that I thought I was going to be like the odd man out because I was the only guy there, but also like the only one who nobody would ever imagine going whitewater rafting.
I'm shocked.
The girl next to me was like freaking out, and the thing is like when they give you your paddle, they're like, keep your hand on the top of the tee, because if you hit a wave and your paddle goes up and your hand's not on top, you could knock people's teeth out with the handle. And she kept like taking her hand off and her paddle was flying. And I was like, if you knock any of my fucking teeth out, I'm going home. So that was the only thing that scared me. But like, honestly, I had such a blast that like, it was, I think the summer before COVID, because we were supposed to go like the summer of 2020 and like we had to cancel everything. But it was so much fun.
Because if someone asked me to do that, I'd be like, are you sure we're close enough that like I'm going to your bachelorette party? But like then when you say it's fun, I'm like, oh, okay, maybe it'd be fun. I don't know.
Yeah.
She and I were really good friends at the time that she got married. So like she was like, I know that you're not in my wedding and you're just going to be coming as a guest, but like my whole family loves you and like everybody who's going really likes you. So like you might as well just come.
Yeah.
And go whitewater rafting. And I was like, I'll go. I'm not going to go whitewater rafting though. That's not me.
Yeah.
And then like all of a sudden I was on there and like everybody got knocked out of my boat at one point except for me and the instructor.
Well, that's shady.
Yeah. I was like, we hit like a wave and he like, I went back like this and he's like, your head touched the water and decided that like you were just like, I'm not going in there. And like you came right back up and like everybody else just like flew out.
Oh my gosh.
Am I good at this?
And I was like, so are you like, am I going to be in the Olympics for whitewater rafting? Because like,
is this missed calling?
yeah, so you're saying I'm a pro.
Oh my God,
Yeah.
that's awesome.
I don't know that I would do very well.
I'm like, I don't know. But then I hear good things, so maybe I should just try.
I mean, it was definitely an easy course. Don't get me wrong. Like, I'm not like the River Wild with Meryl Streep. Like, I'm like literally like an easy course.
Like I'm on the Black Diamond course.
Yeah. I'm just like, I was like on the bunny hill of whitewater rafting.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. I haven't skied in forever.
Me either.
Before we go, can we talk about what we're reading right now? Because I'm really curious. Or you can stop recording, or I don't know, whatever works for you. But I'm just curious to hear what you're reading.
I love it.
Me too.
I know it's really random, but I thought of like the books I just finished, and Gare just posted about both of them, and so I was like, oh, I want to talk about it.
So I'm technically like literally just finished a book, so I'm just going to talk about that. I mean, not like any of you would have like known that I was lying or something. Oh man, I saw you posted your review already.
Mm-hmm.
But okay, also because I think this is kind of a fun story and it adds to the podcast lore. I was supposed to have an interview with an author on Monday, and I logged on and someone else's name appeared in the Riverside studio. And I was like, I don't know who Marjan Kamali is. So basically her publicist added the person who I was supposed to interview, she added the interview to Marjan's calendar. And so long story short, I was like, I basically had to tell her all of this. Like, I haven't read your book, but I just read your synopsis and like, I totally talked to you about it. And she was like, what if we just reschedule? So that is how I ended up reading The Lion Women of Tehran by Marjan Kamali. And it is, I'm trying to like think, it's about two women. It spans their whole life from like 7 to 80. They meet when they're 7, and it's the whole story of their lives living in Iran during the 50s and the 80s when women's rights just like disappeared overnight, basically, when the religious fundamentalists took over and like exiled the Shah. So it's basically about these two women, and one kind of comes from the wealthier class and one doesn't. And one is a really active, she's like very politically active and like so passionate about justice. I loved her dearly, if you can't tell. I loved Homa so much. But it's kind of how they both deal with their journeys through life differently. One is not as politically active and one is, and their lives are very different, but they just stay friends through all of it. And it is extremely heavy. like extremely heavy and sad through almost all of it, but her writing is beautiful. So it's like nothing like any of the books I ever talk about on here, but her writing is stunning.
I love that accident happened and then you found this
book that you love. Yeah.
I know. It's a 5-star. It's so emotional. But it's definitely a 5-star for me.
And the cover's cool as hell.
The cover's very cool, and I love Homa so much. It's the main character's friend, but I loved her so much.
Aww. That's
yeah.
Awesome. Gare, what about you?
Yeah.
What are you reading, Steph?
Well, I just finished 2 kind of salacious. I finished The Hollywood Assistant by May Cobb, and then I finished listening to It Had to Be You by Eliza Jane Brazier. And that was juicy on audio, I'll tell you that right now.
Oh my God, right?
I bet it was.
And then I just started because I heard of it from this podcast.
Ooh.
It's called Camilla Way, The Lies We Tell.
Oh, yes.
It's got a purple cover. I think you talked about it like 1 or 2 times, and I was like writing that down. And then
that sounds so familiar.
Yeah,
it's the call. Wait, I don't think that's completely.
The Lies We Told. Here it is.
I feel like I know what she's talking about. The Lies We Told.
God,
yes.
Yeah, I totally remember that cover.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's multiple timelines. I'm maybe only like 10% in, but I'm into it so far. The first line was like about a beheaded little bird. this
I don't remember that part.
It was like, holy shit. And then I was like, okay, I guess we're having like a creepy kids trope into that. Yeah. Love that. Very much. So yeah. I'm interested to see where this goes.
Yeah.
Me too.
You really, the Hollywood Assistant and It Had to Be You back to back really would be salacious and
damn.
Sexy. I know, there's some good stuff in there.
Mm-hmm.
Well, May Cobb's books are like 400 pages, and I'm just like, I probably, if I didn't have stuff to do, could have just sat there and read it so quickly.
I feel the same way about her books.
Yeah.
Like they're 400 pages, but I'm like, where is it all going? Because like all of a sudden I'm on page 200 and I'm just like, I'm not stopping.
Yeah.
Well, and then like the thrillery, like there were some flashbacks that happened really quickly, but I would say it happens in maybe the last third where really like kind of the thrillery part starts. But I'm like, I didn't even care. I was like so into it.
Yeah, I was so invested.
Yeah.
I'm starting
feel like you're
Talking to Strangers by Fiona Barton. And it's about a woman who gets murdered on Valentine's Day. And this like detective thinks that the man that she went on a date with, that she met online, could be the killer. But like the local people are kind of divided where like half of them are like, we need to protect women against violence. And then the other half are like, if you go on a date with a stranger you meet on an internet and you get murdered, you kind of deserve it. And then there's like this journalist who is like Courtney Cox in Scream, where she's like, I'm going to get to the bottom of this no matter what. And I think that she's going to like try to like go on this internet dating to see if she can find the killer.
Ooh.
Nice.
So it just sounds really good. And the cover's like creepy as fuck.
It is.
Yeah, I just looked it up. I love black and white.
Me too. Me too.
Oh, you are? You're wearing it.
My little Banana Republic t-shirt.
You it.
Yeah, I'm obsessed with Fiona Barton. I actually have all of her hardcovers right here next to me. And now I can add this other one to my collection. The Widow by Fiona Barton is like one of like my favorite endings to a book.
I still haven't read any of her books.
I haven't either, but I
see she's good. She is good.
I thought I'd read one, but I don't think I have. Now that I look,
The Widow is really, really, really good. Like there's like just like the last chapter, you're like, fuck yes.
Yeah.
It's so good.
That's always good.
Like the whole time I was like, oh, this is like pretty good. It's pretty interesting. And then like all of a sudden the end happened and I was like, that was a fucking masterpiece.
Nice.
No, isn't it cool when books, there's been a couple books this year I feel like that's happened. One of them was such a bad influence, I remember.
Oh yeah.
I don't know, Olivia something.
I don't know if I read that one.
I don't remember you talking about it.
I don't think I have.
Like, what was
The ending to The Teacher by Frida McFadden really fucked me up.
I've heard.
Yeah.
That it's wild.
It's really fucking crazy. And I was like, this woman does not give a shit what she puts in her books. Like, she's like, everyone's awful in my books.